Welcome into the Off-Brand Sports Podcast. In today's episode, we've got quite a bit to talk about. The MLB came back this week. The NBA and NHL are both coming back next week. And we've got our sports betting segment to do. So, a ton going around in the sports world, and it's the first time I've been able to say that honestly for like 6 months. So, it's nice, you know. I was telling these guys on our Avs pod, I did not realize how much I miss sports until they came back. I've been watching the MLB, which is not something that I normally watch a whole lot of, and I can't get enough of it. I'm watching every game that I can. Right now, while we're recording this, I've got the Dodgers and the Giants score pulled up. So I just love when sports are going on, you know?
Right. Like, today is the first day in a long time I've literally spent all day watching sports. It was like amazing. It was probably the best fucking Sunday I've had in a while for sure.
Just wait until we get the NBA and NHL back, and then hopefully we actually have an NFL season. Just imagine what those Sundays are going to look like.
Right. Oh man.
I'm going to have to take a 2-month vacation off of work.
I just can't wait till we're having 6 NHL games a day.
Yeah.
And when the games get boring, you know, it's like during the intermissions, I can just flip and there'll be baseball on, or there'll be basketball on, or, you know, regardless, whichever your primary sport is, you can switch and you've got everything else on. And I cannot wait. I'm really excited for these next couple of months here. It's going to be, you know, we suffered as sports fans for the last 6 months having nothing. You know, the whole world has suffered, but we like to complain a lot as sports fans about how rough it's been. It's going to be worth it when we have maybe the best 2 months of sports spectating in, I would
recent
say,
memory,
history.
Man.
I don't know that there's going to be a better 2 months to be a sports fan. So this is really exciting. Before we talk too much about all these sports, let's kick off with our bet segment this time. You know, things are looking up after last week. Marshall, funny enough, Marshall snapped his cold streak, but then ended up resetting a new cold streak. You know, he had 2 bets resolved over the weekend, split on them. Marshall and I both had the same bet that did hit, which was any All-Star to hit a home run. We were pretty confident that would hit. It did. Marshall, the bet he did lose, kind of sucks. He picked the Rockies to win.
And
they won 2 of the 3 games, and you got the one they didn't win.
Yep.
A little bit unfortunate. You were close. You were on the right track. Just couldn't quite get it.
It sucks.
So that leaves him at 310.
It kind of sucks though, because like Marquez pitched an outstanding game that game. So
yeah, he did. I mean, they lost 1-0.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. So that leaves Marshall at 310. He's still got 2 bets pending. 4-6 record overall. Zach hit on his bet. He had the Dodgers to win over the Giants on their opening game. And he also had the over-under 7.5. They hit, which means that he is now up to $20.60. His record actually slightly behind Marshall at 4-7, despite the $17 lead. But hey, we're basing this on the money, so he's in second. Got the 1 bet pending and is on a hot streak of 1. Also snapped a cold streak this week. So we're rolling a little bit.
Yeah, let's get her going, boys.
Yeah, I'm sitting here in the lead at 8-3 now. Funny, I started out losing my first 2. I was actually looking back. I've won 8 of my last 9 bets. So eventually my heater's going to end. But right now it's looking good. I'm sitting at 64.09. I've got a fairly sizable lead for this early in the process. So we'll see if I can hang on to that. Currently riding a 5-win hot streak with 1 bet pending as well. I'm hoping the heater doesn't end this week because I've got a really good bet that I love a lot. DraftKings is giving out a no-brainer odds boost. Pick any team, any of them, to win their first game in Orlando at plus 500. So I didn't want to think about it too much, so I went with the heaviest favorite, which is the Phoenix Suns to win over the Washington Wizards at minus 305. Boost that to plus 500. And Zach and I actually went in on this one together. So Zach, want to give some more details on this?
Yeah, this is an exciting one. It's kind of sad that there's some players hurt going into the bubble, but good for this bet, obviously. Yeah. Bradley Beal and John Wall are going to be out. John Wall, torn Achilles. Bradley Beal, what happened to his ass? I don't know.
Regardless, he won't be playing.
Right. Regardless,
I'll
don't
Google
know.
it real quick.
That's a huge loss though, man. Bradley Beal was averaging over 30 points a game. So, yeah, when you guys had mentioned this bet to me, I was a little bit surprised, but then I was looking more into it. I'm like, yeah, no, like the Wizards are very thin without those two. But yeah, anyways, my bet, another odds boost on DraftKings. It's for any team to go 8-0 in their like prelim games, in the NBA restart, and it's plus 500. It's not 100% like likely to happen, but I do feel like there are some very solid teams with the Lakers and the Clippers and the Bucks that could probably, make some noise coming out of the gates. So we'll see what happens here, but that'd be pretty exciting.
I cannot seem to find why Bradley Beal is out.
Dude, Landy just found his leash.
I think it's a
leash.
rotator cuff injury, it looks like. Landy found his leash. Nice. But yeah, definitely some good bets going this week, and we're on the NBA. We're alternating. Last week we did all MLB bets. This week we're doing all NBA. I've got my NHL bet ready to go for next week, or I guess next episode. So I don't know if you guys are leaning NHL, but we're really betting on the Big Four, which is a nice change of pace for us.
No more darts.
Yeah.
No more losing money on heavy darts favorites. All right, so that's where we stand right now. Let's talk a little bit about opening day. I was very excited to watch some of these games. And, we had maybe one of those moments to cap off opening day that's like, this is why we watch sports. Moments like these, some of the most exciting things. We got a walk-off grand slam in extra innings on the last game of opening day. I believe it was from the Athletics, and I was just sitting there watching TV like 11:30 at night here, and extra innings, real tight game, walk-off grand slam, just super clutch moment. That was my favorite moment of opening day. Do you guys have any other highlights?
I absolutely do. I absolutely do. So, actually, it was not opening day, but it was opening weekend. In the Rockies' second game yesterday afternoon, Daniel Bard, a reliever who hasn't played in the league since 2013, actually spent some time on the Arizona Diamondbacks coaching staff the last couple of seasons, came back to the MLB, and actually ended up getting the win for the Rockies last night.
Yeah. Out 7 years with the Yips.
Yeah.
And it just bounced back. Like, that's impressive, definitely.
Yeah, and so today they were actually watching the Rockies game. They were putting some, tables together, and they were showing who spent the most time away from appearances at MLB. I guess some dude in the 40s spent 21 years away from the MLB, which I thought was absolutely absurd.
Wow. That's crazy.
And yeah.
Well, and so that was going on during World War II, so they were definitely short on guys. But still, 21 years, like, he didn't play until I think it was 24, like 1924, and they ended up making an appearance in 1945. So I feel like the MLB is like one of the only sports you could be able to do that. But still, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Zach, did you have any exciting things that happened over this opening weekend that you liked?
I was just excited to get back to baseball. It started, with the Yankees game getting rained out, and you're like, great, this is 2020 going, here we go. But it ended up, being a great opening day with the Grand Slam to end it off. And, that's what I got to go with my highlight of the opening day for sure.
Yeah,
that was unreal.
I enjoyed it a lot. We're Rockies fans here, so it's nice to see them start with a winning record. They did drop that first game, but won the series by taking the second two. Trevor Story hit 2 home runs. That was actually this morning as of recording this.
Yeah. Freeland threw a good game.
That's good to see.
Yeah. And what's really carried them to the wins has been their pitching, which is not really consistent. But, a couple years ago in 2017, 2018, they made the postseason back-to-back due to some solid pitching, and obviously there's something to be said about the Rockies' offense with, Story, Arenado, Blackman, like all the guys. David Dahl made the All-Star game last year, so If the Rockies can have a little bit of pitching going on, they could be kind of a dark horse, wild card contender. I don't really see them taking the NL West with the Dodgers, but still.
Yeah, we just ended our bet segment, but earlier today I saw the odds on the Rockies to win the World Series, and I was like, I don't think they're going to win the World Series, but it was plus 15,000, which means I bet $5 to win well over $700 or almost $800.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't think they're going to win, but
dude, I mean,
I'll
the
throw
thing
a
is,
couple bucks on
the thing
it.
is you never know with this 60-game shortened season.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
If the Rockies bats can get hot and actually show a little bit of consistent pitching, the thing I'm a little bit worried about with the Rockies is their bullpen depth. They do have Wade Davis, one of the more renowned closers over the last 5 or 6 years. Did end up winning a World Series with the Cubs as their main closer, and his first season with the Rockies, he was absolutely outstanding. The last season that fell apart, the bullpen fell apart. Kyle Freeland, who was I think third in Cy Young voting in the NL, in 2018. Ended up getting sent down to the minors. So there were a lot of pieces that ended up falling apart for the Rockies last year, but they are still a very, very talented team especially on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, with Arenado, man, it's you're pretty much always a contender to at least win the division. So we'll see what happens with the 60-game shortened season, but yeah, it's super fun to have baseball back and to actually get to watch some actual Big Four sport. So
yeah, definitely, and it's only gonna pile on here because it's time to talk NBA a little bit, and so they've been playing some exhibition games, and I don't know about you guys, but by far my favorite story out of this has been the Nuggets tall ball, rolling out just a lineup filled with 7-footers, guys who are 6'10" are the shortest that they roll out there, and Bol Bol is.
yeah,
I just love that the guy will shoot everything.
dude.
If it's in his hands, it's being shot.
Yeah. Nikola Jokic at point guard. Don't really see a 7-footer playing point guard too often.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Definitely
dude,
interesting.
he's already probably the best passing big man in NBA history, so it's not entirely surprising. Sorry, my dog is causing havoc over here. but anyways, yeah, that's pretty crazy, man. Seeing a lineup of, I think it was Torrey Craig, Jokic, Paul Millsap, Mason Plumlee, and Bol Bol together. That's a little bit different than the Houston Rockets small ball lineup, and I don't really know how that matchup would work out against them. And I don't see that actually translating into a consistent.
They're
type
not
of
going to
thing.
roll it out, but
It is kind of a
to
fun
watch.
experiment, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it went real well in the first game. They won. Part of that was, some missing players, things like that. And then in the second game, we're like, okay, this didn't work that well, but still really interesting to watch.
I mean, another just besides the whole tall ball lineup, a big story is Bol Bol and himself, man.
Mm-hmm.
He's
Yeah.
looked like dude, he could be a serious NBA player. I mean, he's
It's
he's what
I don't want to get too
7'3",
excited.
7'3",
Yeah.
7'9" wingspan that could shoot
Mhm.
and play with the best of them. And dude, I mean, his dad was an NBA player. I think he's third tallest NBA player of all time. Definitely fact check me on that, but 7'7", the guy couldn't shoot for anything, but now you have a little bit of a shorter replica of that guy with some basketball skills. Bol Bol could be some sort of a force in this NBA.
Yeah, let's see. How tall was Manute Bol?
I think he was 7'7".
Was 7'7".
Yeah.
It just says one of the tallest on his Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can pull up a list here.
I mean, it's not really too important, but still, I mean, Bol Bol definitely
Second
got some of those
tallest.
tall genes there, and got some of the skill touch from. Actually, didn't even get some of the skill touch, just gathered some of the skill touch. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Nuggets look in a few years here, especially if MPJ could figure it out. The future is still just looking bright as ever. But some other teams, that are standing out. The Clippers ended up losing their exhibition game last night, and Kawhi did not look particularly great. But I'm not really too worried about that. Them being my finals pick, they just have too much depth to overcome, or
Yeah, there's a lot to like there, and while these exhibition games can be exciting, they don't mean too much.
No.
The players are, they're trying, but they're not trying to win. They're trying to build chemistry, and they're trying to experiment with things. So, yeah, they lost. It's not the same thing as losing a playoff game. It's not the same thing even as losing a regular season game.
No, absolutely not. And going consistently off of my bet for this week, like, if I had to pick one team to go 8-0, it would be the Clippers. So I'm not really too concerned.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot to like. Who are some of your other favorite teams that you kind of are excited to watch a little bit of here? In either with some of these exhibition games or rolling into the playoffs and this end of the regular season, like, what are some of the other teams, outside of the big heavy favorites and the Nuggets, that you guys are excited to watch?
Zach, do you want
to? Probably the Celtics. I think they have an interesting lineup. Be interesting to see how Kemba does. They're probably, they're my second team other than the Bucks to win the East. They're probably the ones that I would pick. It'd be exciting to see them.
I think my answer is pretty easy here. Is the Charlotte Hornets, the New Orleans Pelicans. Oh my goodness, I just like mixed up the old names.
It's been a couple of years now. I don't know.
Yeah, I just mixed up the old names.
It depends on the status on Zion and how much we see him, I think. But
yes,
yeah, definitely.
But
exciting.
Still, I mean, the NBA they already came out and before Zion had to leave for his undisclosed reasons, they were already structuring their national games around Zion. They were supposed to be opening day tip off, just because of the hype around Zion and all that. So hopefully we can see some Zion. I'm not 100% confident that we will see a lot of Zion, but if we do, that's definitely my team to look out for.
Yeah, I think for me, I want to watch a little bit more of the Raptors. I know they're not a crazy contender. They're a little bit up there, but I'm just really curious to see, the loss of Kawhi to me is one of the most, the loss of Kawhi and then still being able to be as good as they are to me is one of the more interesting stories in the NBA. So I'm excited to see how they do. I want to see if they make a little bit of noise here.
Yeah. I mean, dude, for good reason. Toronto, I think, finished second in the East this year again.
Yeah.
Pascal Siakam, still, just an emerging superstar in my eyes. And just great coaching, well-rounded roster with pretty, solid depth. So, yeah, they'll be fun to watch for sure.
Definitely. Okay, so we've got a lot of positive talk going on this week with everything returning, but there's a couple negative stories that I think we need to touch on a little bit. And some of it is just, if I were an NBA player, some of these things would be pissing me off. Starting with the obvious, Lou Williams going to the strip club when he left the bubble.
Right.
Yes.
You're letting every other one of the players in the league down because you can't stay away from the strip club.
Yeah, and he left for a funeral.
Yeah.
He
left for a funeral, went to a funeral, and within a couple of days, I don't know exactly the time frame, ended up at a strip club.
Yeah, how does that happen, man? This last round of testing that the NBA came out with, there were 0 positive tests. And the only way that, this could get, thrown out of proportions here is if people players start doing stuff like that, man. I think, in my personal opinion, Lou Williams should be, quarantined for a month. I mean, that's just me. That's being, my overreactive self. But, dude, if you leave the bubble for a personal reason like a funeral, that's absolutely terrific. But don't be doing stupid stuff and going to, a strip club that's going to put your team's, chances at an NBA championship in jeopardy, but also just the NBA season in jeopardy, man. It's you're making too much money to do foolish shit like that.
Exactly.
Come on.
It's just, I normally stand by the players. When they complain, I'm okay, I get it. It's kind of annoying to be in the bubble. This legitimately pissed me off a little bit, I don't even care that you're letting the fans down. Whatever, the fans can do, I don't care that much about the fans. I think it's a little bit of an overrated aspect of sports, but when you're letting your team down, and you're letting the league down, and you're letting your coaches down, because you can't, just for something as stupid as needing to spend a night at a strip club, It's ridiculous to me. Another one of these things that they're doing is, the Nuggets had, I can't even remember who exactly it was. They had a player miss their last exhibition game because he didn't show up for his COVID test. Yeah. Not because he failed the test, he just forgot to make it. And that's like, you're in the bubble. That is the bare minimum, is to make it to the 4 things a day that you absolutely have to be at. Whatever you want to do with your free time in the bubble, that's fine. You can go golf, play some video games, whatever you want to do. But you got to do the bare minimum. And there have been some NBA players that have just managed to not do that.
So I totally agree, man. It's like, yes, this is a little bit a minor inconvenience for some of these guys, man. Some of these guys are only going to be in this bubble for like a month. Just like bite the bullet and like do what the NBA is asking you for. And pretty much like the whole entire sports community is just asking. Like, you guys are making millions of dollars because of the fans. And the NBA is trying to protect like the players, their families, anyone that is like involved in the bubble, including their older coaches. Like some of these coaches are in the susceptible like age group, like 65 and older, especially like Greg Popovich, who's like in his 70s now. And these players just like can't follow these like simple protocols. Lou Williams going out and being in a strip club is just absurd to me, man. And like Dwight Howard is pissing me off too with his whole gripes with like, oh well, why should I be having to wear a mask? It's also to be kind of like setting an example though. In the end, it's like this is how like the society should be operating at this time, especially if we're gonna like get the economy back in like up and running. Like Dwight Howard, dude, if the NBA is asking you to wear a mask and you're like consistently getting asked to wear a mask and you're still not, just do it, man. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
Even if you don't think that the mask works, whatever, everyone else wants you to do it. Isn't there just something to be said for not pissing everyone off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if you're like, I absolutely don't think this works, so I'm not going to wear it. Like, fine, don't wear it because you think it works. Wear it because you don't want to piss off everybody around you. Just wear it.
Especially with him being on one of like the highest contending teams, man. It's like, are you really just going to be that dumb to like put your like super solid team in jeopardy? Like,
yeah, it's insanity. But that's enough of this. Some of the issues going on. There's a lot of good to like, and another league doing a lot of good is the NHL, and they're doing things right. I think that of all these startups, I think the NHL has the best system going. They're doing it in Canada. They're in the bubble. I have a feeling players are probably going to stick pretty strictly to that just because hockey culture says you do whatever you do for the boys, and they're going to stand by that. So sometimes that's good, sometimes it's bad. I think in this case it'll be good for them. And I'm really excited for this. And teams are, they're on their way to Edmonton now. So we're kind of in these crucial days where they've got to get into the bubble, get those negative tests, make sure everyone's good to go. And after that, I think the NHL is set. I think they will probably get off without, if they can get there and they don't have any positive tests this week, I don't think they'll have any positive tests throughout the process.
Yeah, it'd be a little bit surprising if they did, for sure. Yeah, the boys are like going to the bubble. I know the Avs landed at Edmonton today. Just do whatever you want to do, guys. Like, just play some video games. Like, play guitar. I know I saw a couple of the boys with the guitar. Like Tyson Jost, I think, had like a little ukulele or something. But yeah, just spend some time with the boys, have some fun. Don't go and do strip clubs. Don't break the bubble rules. Just do what the NHL asks you and play some hockey, guys. It's not that hard, Right. It's not like they're asking you to like do like manual labor, like be part of like the military or something. Just go do what you're asked and play some hockey. Try to win a Stanley Cup.
All right, yeah. So, similar question that I asked you guys about the NBA. What are some NHL teams that you guys are really excited to watch? Maybe a couple of dark horses, maybe some contenders, but teams that you want to see how this plays out.
So
let's start with you, Zach. Yeah, go ahead.
There's a couple teams I wanted to talk about right off the bat, and just looking at the DraftKings odds, the Flyers are plus 550 to win the Eastern Conference. I think that's a little bit crazy. I think they have a great shot to win. The Flyers are definitely a team for me, like we talked about in the past, that are a dark horse team to go to the Stanley Cup final. And to watch them was going to be exciting. I'm also excited to go out west and watch the Avs, of course. They're going to be great to watch.
Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely. So, is it alright if I pick a few teams here?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so two pretty obvious teams for me are both the Toronto Maple Leafs and Edmonton Oilers. Just seeing how being in their hub cities is going to affect their style of play. I know that the NHL is trying their best to not cater to them. I heard something about the Columbus Blue Jackets getting the Maple Leafs locker room in Toronto, which is a little bit interesting. It's okay, so Toronto doesn't get their own locker room. So they are trying to be as fair as possible. I know there was initial talk about the East coming West and the West going East, but that didn't happen. So all these teams are still going to have to stay in hotels, still be part of the bubble. Edmonton and Toronto can't go to their homes, and so it's going to be interesting to see how that affects them. Whether or not their ice still gives them some home ice advantage. So those are a couple of the ones.
Stuff like that.
And then a team that I've been a fan of for a while is Vancouver Canucks, just because of the Pettersson effect. We've been talking about, this could be another type of off season. This could be going into theoretically the next season, and if Pettersson can take it another step, the Vancouver Canucks could make a little bit of noise.
Pettersson definitely a guy to watch rolling into this postseason. I think he could make some noise. If the Cubs do make a run, I think it would be on the back of Pettersson. So that'll be interesting to watch for sure. My number one team to watch, other than the Avs, because I'm an Avs fan, I want to watch the Avs, is my second team, the Carolina Hurricanes. We talked about them early on in the sport in this pod. We did them as one of our deep dives a little over a month ago, but we called them a contender for a reason. They've got a lot to love on defense. They've got a lot to love on offense, and they've got some decent goaltending. I wouldn't say they've got great goaltending, but I am really curious to see what they do. I want to call them a true contender. The one thing I'm a little bit worried about is they're actually opening against the Rangers. Have not beaten the Rangers this year. Have historically, over the last 5 years, really struggled with the Rangers. So I want to see how they come out of the gate. Do they just kind of take it to the Rangers and say, you guys may have gotten the edge on us, but we're the better team and it's not close? Or do they struggle out of the gate and maybe have to win the series close, maybe even lose the series, but how much does this, maybe, I don't want to call it a bad matchup, but difficult matchup, mean to them?
Right. And what's your guys' favorite play-in round? Who's your favorite? What's the best matchup that you think going into this?
Well, really quick, I'd like to kind of touch on Billy's question here. I do think that the Rangers are a little bit of a dark horse team, man.
They got some things going for them.
They do have
with
some things going
Panarin
on.
and Hank. If he can turn it on, it's a different story.
Yeah.
Zibanejad, the way he finished out the year.
I don't think did Hank even make the trip?
Let's find out. Actually, I'm sure the Rangers announced their roster.
Yeah.
You're telling me Hank's not playing? Is that what you're just telling me?
Well, Shesterkin's definitely their go-to guy now.
What in the fuck?
Yeah, Shesterkin and Georgiev, I'd probably say, would both play over Hank. Let's see.
Interesting.
Yep, they've released their roster. They brought Shesterkin, Lundqvist, and Georgiev. It looks like they're planning on starting Shesterkin with Hank as the backup, and then Georgiev will be the third man in if they get to him.
Yeah, that's you still kind of need that veteran presence with Hank.
I guess I didn't know that he was not the starter anymore.
Shesterkin just stole that job from under him. One of the better young goaltending prospects in the league right now. I think him and Samsonov are going to be quite the debate over the next few years.
Yeah, I would agree. But yeah, they're one of the teams that we probably should have mentioned in the most interesting teams coming back to the bubble. So yeah, this is a pretty tough matchup, I think, for the Canes, especially if Panarin can just continue on what his trajectory from this last season. So
Yeah. So let's get a little bit into Zach's question, which was the most interesting series. For me, I'm actually going out east again. Toronto Columbus, Marshall, I know you talked a little bit about it with the locker rooms, but you're talking about like maybe an underperforming team with tons of talent against maybe an overperforming team that has had that maybe could use an influx of talent. They lost quite a bit with Panarin and Duchesne and Bobrovsky, but I really want to see how this series plays out, just because they're teams that seem so different on paper, but when you look at where they finished in the standings, they're right next to each other.
yeah,
And I'm very curious to see how that one plays out.
yeah, for me, I'm going out west, and it's going to be the Oilers and the Blackhawks series. It would not be surprising at all for me to see the Blackhawks upset the Oilers.
Ooh, with Crawford out though, Malcolm Subban is starting.
I guess I did not know that Crawford was out. But still, that's kind of just an exciting series
Yeah, a lot of talent.
for a lot of the same reasons that I brought up earlier with the Oilers, and like you just brought up with Toronto, just to see how the hub cities kind of benefit or don't benefit the home teams from those hub cities. This is a very talented play-in round. It's going to be one that draws a bunch of attention, I'm sure. The Blackhawks have one of the better fan bases in all of hockey. Same with the Oilers, and the Oilers have two of the top 5 players in hockey right now. So yeah, this is a pretty easy one for me. If this game's on, I'm gonna definitely tune into it.
Yeah, that's definitely my favorite series as well, the Toronto Columbus. Big upset potential here. The Toronto Maple Leafs are a team that underperformed most of the year, and I could really, really see them losing this, and it'd be devastating for the future of the Leafs. So it'll be interesting just for future, just for what's going to go on in the future to see that series.
Yeah. I'd also like to see, what does Elvis bring us in the playoffs? Elvis Merzlikins was red hot in the regular season.
Right.
Kind of took the league by storm, and I'm curious to see how that translates into the playoffs. Because if he can carry over, get another one of those shutout streaks that he had, he could steal a series, and I want to see whether or not that does happen.
Yeah, does Columbus steal another series by sweeping?
Sweep the Leafs. They only got to win 3 this time.
Yeah, so maybe interesting. This is just a unprecedented era of pretty much sports in general. So.
Yeah, this is a really weird time. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about both leagues. I want you guys to give me 1 or 2 absolute locks. So this can be an NHL team that you're sure is going to win their play-in, or an NBA team that maybe isn't guaranteed a playoff spot, but you're telling me they're getting into the playoffs. So give me a lock. Who is your lock, Zach?
My absolute lock comes from the NHL. It's the Pittsburgh Penguins to beat the Canadians. That's just an absolute lock.
Fair enough.
That was going to be my pick, so we'll get that out of the way. That's pretty easy for me.
Yeah, I mean, the Canadians, the worst team in the play-in. Mine, I know, Marshall, you said that the Blackhawks could upset the Oilers, but for me, my lock is the Oilers to beat the Blackhawks. I think I'm both higher on the Oilers and lower on the Blackhawks than you are, and I think the loss of Crawford is the finishing blow. The Oilers are going to run away with that one. I think that one's going to be a sweep.
If we're going out east, though, or sorry, not out east, to the NBA. If we're giving a lock to make the playoffs, I am going out east, and it's going to be the Magic to steal that 8 seed. Especially with Bradley Beal and John Wall out, the Wizards do not take 2 out of 3 from the Magic.
Yeah, that seems likely. I am going to have to agree with that one.
So, yeah, Magic are my lock in the NBA, and in the NHL, it's definitely the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Penguins, I would be very surprised to see really any of those teams miss the playoffs. So we talked a little bit about things that we're excited about for the Avs in particular on our Avs podcast. With the return of sports, what are some of the things that you are the most excited for?
If we're starting in the NBA here, I'll give one from each league here. I'm really excited to see how Kawhi Leonard and Paul George mesh, being like consistently healthy and not being like they're not like sitting out of these games. I'm really interested to see how they do with the Clippers, because the Clippers are my favorite in the NBA. If we're going to the NHL, the thing I'm most excited about is the Tampa Bay Lightning getting like a revenge type of tour.
Yeah.
After their performance in last year's playoffs. And then in the MLB, I'm most excited for the New York Yankees with their healthy lineup, and then they're a true ace with Garrett Cole. So those are three things that I'm most looking forward to here.
All right, Zach, what are a couple things that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, I'm not as spread out as Marshall. Like, all I can think of is just all Colorado teams right now. Like, I'm really excited for, we've touched on it. Nathan McKinnon going into the MLB, seeing how the Rockies' pitching develops throughout the year. We got a couple guys that could maybe take us over 30 games, which is going to probably be a lock to make the playoffs. And NBA, Jokic being smaller, it's going to be interesting to see him up in the post, what he could do to these bigger defenders now. Yeah, I can't really think of any other team other than the Colorado-based teams.
It's hard to shake, when our biases, that's what we like to watch. What we want to watch is the Colorado team, so it's really easy to get excited about them. One thing for me I am really excited about is just the MLB 60-game season is super intriguing to me, because every game matters like 3 times as much now with a third of the games. And I really want to see like what kind of dark horses get into the playoffs because of this 60-game season. What kind of players make some runs at some awards that they maybe wouldn't have gotten in a 160-game season.
I'll give you a couple.
One hot streak, Yeah, give me a couple here, Marshall.
Colorado Rockies and Trevor Story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Trevor Story's already got 2 home runs in 3 games. At that pace, he's going to be rolling. He's going to have 40 home runs in a 60-game season.
Yeah. Exactly. Sorry to cut you off there.
That's all right. Yeah, but that's exactly what I mean is small sample sizes sometimes give us incredible stats. And so I am really excited to see some of those incredible stats. What kind of players just really have memorable years because it was such a short year.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Anything from the NBA or NHL?
I mean, I said it on the Avs pod, but NHL playoff overtime is the best event in sports. There's nothing more exciting than that. And I guess I talked about it pretty Avs specifically, but any time around the league, if a game goes to overtime, I'm flipping the channel to that game no matter what else I'm watching, because that's like the most exciting thing that can happen is sudden death, especially game 7s where it's like this is 5 minutes to decide the series, or 20 minutes, or maybe triple overtime and it's 60 minutes to decide the series. But there's nothing quite like having your heart race for a game like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, awesome.
Right.
A couple things I think we should probably touch on, though.
All right.
We already touched on one of them in the Avs podcast, but then there's a couple of name changes. The Redskins changed their name like temporarily to the Washington Football Club.
I think it's dumb.
Yes, I think this is extremely bad.
Make a decision.
Just make a decision, guys. It's not that hard. Like, just take like a fan poll or something. Just what do you guys want to see? But yeah, so that's pretty easy. I don't like what they just did. But then out of the NHL, we got news on. We already touched on it in the Avs pod, like I said, but we did get news on what the 32nd team is going to be named. It's the Seattle Kraken.
Yes, and I'm not going to go on the same rant, But I do want our sports viewers to hear this as well. It is not the Seattle Krakens. It is the Seattle Kraken. Yes. There's no S on the end. I've already seen it quite a bit on Twitter or wherever else people have been talking about the Kraken. So just to clarify for anyone who was unclear on that, it is not plural. Yes. But going back to the Washington football team, so I've heard a couple of radio show people or whoever on TV talking about this. They might be just double dipping a little bit here, on the merchandising. They're saying, we can just call ourselves the Washington football team for a year, and people are going to buy all the Washington football team merch. Because, they're still going to have jerseys or whatever with no logo on them. So they'll do that, and then they get to wait a year, rebrand completely, and then sell more merch. So I think that it's dumb that they can't just settle on a name. It is, yes, it's an important decision, but it's not that difficult to pick a name, especially with, the Red Tails is a perfectly good one that people have thrown out there that they could use. So I think it's a little bit dumb that they won't just settle on something, but I think that might play a small role in it.
Yeah, that's something I've never heard, but it's definitely a fair aspect.
All right. So any last things that you guys want to talk about before we go ahead and get out of here for today?
Well, really quick, I love the Kraken's. I love their jerseys and their logos.
All of it.
Don't necessarily love the name.
I love the name and the jerseys and the logos.
The jerseys are absolutely the best in the league right now.
They have the best secondary logo in the league too. The little anchor.
Yeah, with the
Space Needle.
Yeah,
that's sick. And I like the primary logo a lot too. So it's a lot going on.
Did you guys ever hear about the Seattle bitch pigeons?
Oh, I saw that.
I thought that would have been hilarious.
Yeah, and there's someone made a cutout of actually a pigeon in their logo.
Yeah.
You'll have to look that up. It's kind of funny.
It was funny.
Wow. Yeah. Have you guys been to Seattle and seen all the pigeons?
Yes.
They're annoying.
It's pathetic.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah. Seattle's a beautiful city though, man.
It is.
Absolutely.
It's funny because I did a road trip. I actually went up there to watch the U.S. women's national soccer team play in Vancouver. So we went to Vancouver and then drove down to Seattle, and
those are both two super awesome cities.
I am not a huge fan of Vancouver, honestly.
Really? I've never actually been to Vancouver, but
it's not necessarily the area. It's just the architecture style that they used quite a bit in Vancouver.
I think that's cool, though.
I'm not a huge fan of it, honestly. I really loved Seattle. I would live in Seattle in a heartbeat. That's a little bit rainy for my taste, but I could pull it off.
I like rain.
I'm not a huge fan of Vancouver. No offense to anyone in Vancouver. I love the area and I love the culture there. The architecture style is not my taste, and so I wouldn't necessarily want to live there and look at it all the time.
I think the architecture there is cool. I've never been to Vancouver, but I have been to Victoria, British Columbia, which is across the little channel.
Right there.
But that was the most pristine little town I've ever seen. So, but Seattle, awesome. Pacific Northwest is pretty cool. So it's kind of exciting to see them get another sports team up in Seattle.
Yeah, definitely. All right, we're gonna go ahead and close out this pod for today, boys. Thank you to all our viewers for watching. You can find us wherever you listen to your podcast, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Google Play, YouTube is where we get quite a bit of our viewership. Check out some of the other things we got going on around this network. We've also got our Avs podcast that we've referred to a couple times. We've got our Top 10s podcast where we just we hang out and talk about some Top 10s lists. And check out whatever interests you, and we'll see you in our next episode.